Serbia, please Serbia, adopt the euro in 2021, scrap the dinar and adopt the euro. Please, it's important to understand the dinar really never delivered what a good currency should do. It's neither a secure, firm fundament for investment. It's not a very stable storage of value. It is basically an instrument of poverty and of oligarchization and corruption collusion of the Serbian elite. And it's very bad for the Serbian consumers, for the Serbian savers, for the Serbian investors, and it's really avoidable. Basically, it's one of the most terrible currencies in the history of Europe, together with the Belarusian ruble. And please, Serbia, the euro is the answer. And please, I call very much on all Serbs, make a protest in order to ask your government to euroize Serbia exactly like it has been in Montenegro and in Kosovo, and also basically also Macedonia and Bosnia are packed. Now anyhow comes the moment where also Bulgaria and Croatia will join the Eurozone, and also soon I think it will be the case for Romania. And so basically, with exception of Hungary, which seems a little bit a role model of some of the Serbian elite these days because of its pro-Russian policy. But if you really want to be in the European Union and join NATO and the West, then it's time to adopt the euro. I will now outline all the detailed arguments about this and also call very much to see, for example, the terrible history of the Yugoslavian and Serbian dinar. Until 1994, it was really the worst currency in Europe. And then it's got a bit better, but a bit better is very relative. Now we have the Serbian dinar, and €1 can buy 117 Serbian dinars. And remember, there was a time, basically the Serbian dinar and the Macedonian dinar were both at 60. The Macedonian dinar was pegged, that means fixed exchange rate towards the euro. It's still at 60. And you are now have lost another double of the currency value. Basically, you are close to 120. So you see already the history of the dinar doesn't really count on anything good for the future. And see as well that Montenegro, who has adopted the euro, is now richer. First time in history is richer than Serbia per capita, GDP per capita. It's quite striking. And if you go more in the details about the purchasing power, then you see what a teacher gets in Montenegro and what a teacher gets in monthly salary in Serbia is about half. I mean, and that's true for most state employees, for most pensioners. Yeah? If you compare the prosperity and purchasing power of a Montenegrin euroized employee of the state, yeah? I'm not talking about the private sector, which is even better, being better in Montenegro, and you compare it with Serbia, then you understand why so many Serbs have to immigrate to Montenegro, because it's economically much more successful, because it has made a better currency policy. And this Serbian currency policy is only good for a small group of people who control the export industries, are close to the government, and which also has state industries for export, like weapons, for example. They, of course, earn dollar and euro exchange and then transfer it into a very cheap dinar and live like kings. And it also forces a lot of people to leave to Germany, Austria, and to hard currency countries. And then they come back and they see how cheap everything is. So Serbia and Belgrade gets in a kind of entertainment El Dorado, where people and services are very, very, very cheap compared to Western Europe. And that's somehow some people who live in that kind of half world think that's a very cool thing. They compare, of course, prices and see, oh, Serbia is still cheaper. Yes, because the people in Serbia are getting paid less because they have this dinar and this kind of very fragile quicksand currency. And that's exactly the problem. So I call really on this tragic currency to be abolished and to adopt the euro like in Montenegro. Coming back, the Serbian currency devaluation in 20 years, it's completely unfair also to the neighbors. Everybody else has pegged currency in the Balkans. Not Albania, but they are much stricter in their currency policy and closely following the euro. And Croatia has also a closer policy towards the euro. But the Serbian dinar, 20 years from 60 to 170, and so on and so on. And this was not the promises of the 5th of October. Now we have the 5th of October coming up very soon. 20 years of European Serbia, and still everything is based on this dinar, on devaluation, on manipulation, on collusion, on corruption, on control of the state by the powerful. There was this terrible, I have it, maybe if I can, just 1 second, because I shared it on the other website. You can see, yeah, exactly. It's very good to see that one. Democracy in the Western Balkan, Serbia at 139. Kosovo at 64. Croatia and Slovenia much better, of course, as EU. But that's the reality. That's the reality of Serbia today. And the euro and the dinar is one part of it. And I really call to change that. And the change has to be by the euro. It's not that you are alone in Europe with the euro. We have already 19 eurozone members. We will have now Croatia and Bulgaria very soon. They are already on the way. And then also Montenegro, Kosovo. And then it's also Denmark, which is packed. It's Bosnia, which is packed. It's North Macedonia, which is packed. And we will see also the Eastern European currencies coming. And Orban is no example, and Poland is no example. If this is the example you said, I can guarantee you that nobody in Berlin, Vienna, and Brussels will support Serbian EU membership. Maybe talks of membership, yes. But if you want to be a second Hungary or a second Czech Republic, a second Poland, nobody won't really support your membership when it comes to real voting in the European Council, because we quite have enough of their extravaganzas. And another of these countries, under that circumstances, certainly no. Good. Let's come back to history and to real courage. The Euroization of Montenegro from 2002 on, that was really the powerful decision. I was very happy about it, and I didn't understand why Bosnia does not the same. Probably again some nationalism, but Montenegro has done all the right things, leaving all these dinner times behind and really having a firm fundament for prosperity, and it worked so much better. It has allowed to stabilize Montenegro financial banking system. It is also a magnet for FDI, for foreign investment. It makes investment in Montenegro domestic and foreign very secure. There is no risk of devaluation. It is also a clear symbol for a Western trajectory of the state, led then to NATO membership, and will lead very fast to EU membership. And having the euro made also the richer Montenegro possible, richer than Serbia, which is much more from old concept and from the main economic factors, much richer country than rocky Montenegro. And also that's a major success, and it's really to be applauded. It was very courageous. The same true for Kosovo, completely destroyed during the liberation wars of 91, and now is already coming up towards the level of Albania. Is of course lagging a little bit behind to Macedonia still, but compared where it was, and it's really a tremendous success. And it's again the euro, because all the international support and the diaspora money funding investment there is really on a firm fundament. There is no devaluation risk in a country which is euroized, and that has proven extremely beneficial. When you compare it with the other fragile countries of Eastern Europe, and the best one is Georgia, and Georgia and Kosovo are now about the same level, about 4,700 GDP per capita. It's unprecedented. It's amazing. Celebrate Montenegro, to move away from Milosevic and from the terrible disasters of the Bosnian and Kosovo wars. Then they were still part of the whole mess in Croatia and in Bosnia, but they have learned in the end of the 90s. They didn't join the aggression against Kosovo and kept out of the disaster. And then they immediately understood they have to separate the monetary ties with Serbia. They did it, adopted the German mark in 99, historic day, 6th of November. And then this was very positive for them. And this is really fantastic, and this is courage. Yes, Serbia should do the same. What needs to be done? I have many times already said cut the taxes to 10%, and this is the way to be competitive, not devaluations. And back the dinar first to the euro and then adopt the euro, and then catch up with Croatia, which is already at double the prosperity level, and cancel all the links with Russia from free trade agreements and now the new one with the Eurasian Union. This is a total disaster. Support the Minsk sanctions. Now you have supported the Belarusian sanctions. That was good. And then support finally to have Ukraine and Georgia to join CEFTA and let Bosnia into NATO and end the boycott of Kosovo and recognize, of course, the Republic of Kosovo and reform into a federal Serbia and don't just put everything into Belgrade, but really allow prosperity in the whole region. That's the way to be the 33rd member of NATO, and that's also then opening the way towards the EU membership. But please don't buy any weapons from Russia and China. The European Union has given you now 10 billion euros, half of it in grants, that means as a present, and half of it in loans, and more coming. And if you calculate everything, it's probably more, because the situation is Serbia is the biggest receiver of EU support globally, per capita by far, but also in full terms, it's unprecedented how much the EU has supported in the last 20 years European Serbia, and I didn't hear a lot of hvalas or thank yous from Serbia. Serbia, welcome as the 36th member of the EU, but first join NATO and stop also buying weapons from Russia and China, because we support you financially. This gives a fiscal room. You know, the budget is then liberated, doesn't have to build all the highways because the EU is paying for it. And then you do these kind of deals with Russia and China for building up your weaponry, which is obviously a threatening position towards Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, Kosovo, and the whole NATO. And, you know, that's really totally wrong, and I call to stop that. When it comes to packing the currency, you know, that's really very important to understand. Lithuania, the Baltics, they have done that as well. That was very successful. Bulgaria has done that, much more successful. And this is really the way to do it. And it's also the same way I call for the Georgians, Ukrainians, and for the Moldovans. And you're not alone in doing that. And anyhow, also Macedonia will adopt the euro, I'm confident, very soon. They have already this firm currency link and they are ready for it. And then also Albania. And anyhow, the three NATO countries, once they have adopted the euro, they can then join the European Union much faster, maybe even in 2022. I call for that. And that needs also courage, but it's the right decision. And then the three NATO countries, the three Euro countries of the Southern Balkans will be already in the EU30, and they will co-decide also if Serbia is ready for membership in the EU and also in NATO. And I think it's important to show them that you're ready by adopting the euro. So when it comes to the peace process between Kosovo, Bosnia and Serbia, I call on all three to be united in the WTO, in the World Trade Organization, and also by the euro. It's already the case in Kosovo. In Bosnia, please adopt the euro, and Serbia the same, and all three together join into the World Trade Organization together. And that's the broader strategy. All countries basically adopting the euro and to be euroized, and whole CEFTA and the EIB countries. It's actually quite a lot of countries who do the same. The success of the euro actually is very strong. You know, if you don't believe, some people criticize me, they don't believe in the success of the euro and debts, you know, crisis, whatever. This is all bullshit, yeah. The thing is, yeah, if the euro would not be good, why are over so many millions of Serbs left into the eurozone area to earn money in Austria, in Slovakia, in Germany, in Italy, in France? What is their choice? They have made the decision they want to work in eurozone countries. And then some activists on Twitter and YouTube tell me the Serbs don't like the euro. Millions of Serbs have gone to the euro area for a reason, and they know exactly why. So let's come also to the regional context. Now it's very important to understand that Croatia is now joining. That is a decision. Here's the tweet of Mrs. Lagarde, the president of the ECB. That's the EMR2. That's basically 2 years before the Euro zone membership. You have to join that instrument. So they are firmly on the way. So expect them to join by 2023. And obviously, then there's a different video on that one, to call for all subsidy cuts for all countries who reject the euro, and especially to Poland, to Czech Republic, and to Hungary. They don't join, they are rich enough, and they don't need our support. So cut all subsidies to these free eurozone rejectors, and let's see what will be the effect. Romania is a different case. They want to join the euro, but the EU is a little bit, anti-Romanian in some aspects. They have made not the best experience with corruption, and Romania doesn't have a good reputation. Whenever it is a very successful country in the last years, it has really achieved 12,000 GDP per capita. That's really quite good. Of course, the Eurozone would be another step for the next level of prosperity. And when you look at the real criteria is the debt criteria. They are just at 35. Just very few Eurozone countries have that. And the other one about inflation, interest rates, that's a bit artificial kind of criteria, because once you peg your currency to the euro and join EM2, all these criteria anyhow will be much lower. So I don't understand. There is a little bit of a bias against Romania in the ECB and in the EU because of the socialist government they had now for some years, who was so corrupt. But now we have a good government now in Romania. Now it's really time for Romania to join the Eurozone, and that will also change the currency situation. Don't forget how we are here. Serbia then will be surrounded basically mostly by Euro-pact and Eurozone countries with the integration of Romania. So I really don't know what Serbia is waiting for. Anyhow, it's a broader strategy I call Euroization of Eastern Europe. All the countries who will join the EU in the future, or who want to join the EU in the future, like Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, in the ERP countries, please, don't go again for this devaluation policy of Serbia. It is so bad. Ukraine has enough devaluations. Free currency crisis 2008, 14, 15, and lost 70% of the value. The worst currency anyhow, Belarus, this is total disaster, and the others have not been much better. So it's really important to Euroize Eastern Europe, to stabilize, and that's also the way for a stronger global role of the euro. And because then basically there is much more monetary volume, and also a kind of feeling that the European Unionist order is able to support the prosperity of Eastern Europe. We are not in a dangerous, fragile Eastern quicksand, but really we are able to help the Eastern Europeans to reach the next level of prosperity. And also Serbia, you are invited, adopt the euro. And this will be a very beneficial position for Serbia to do. And I call to do it as fast as possible. And the euro is an instrument of peace. Never forget, it's most important that we are now in this peace process with Kosovo, and everybody in the same currency. That's a very, very important signal of peace. And nobody in the same currency system will probably attack each other. It's one part of a peaceful settlement where Serbia shows it's ready for peace and for long-term peace with Kosovo, with Bosnia, with Montenegro, with Croatia, with everybody in Europe. And given the tragic history of the last 30 years, especially the 90s, and this is a powerful symbol, and this is what can be done very fast. Yeah, it doesn't take a long, complicated process. Just adopt the euro, the same like Montenegro and Kosovo have done, and basically that's it. Then you are really showing that you are part of the Western world, of the European system, and I call for that. Thanks a lot.